This is your Q&A time, writing at 240 words per minute. Your proper names are Mr. Jughead, J, Community College, J. Weeks, and 38 Smith and Wesson. Ready? Mr. Jughead, you have listed certain exhibits which you expect to introduce in this lawsuit. Among them is a machine gun lighter.
Yes.
What does that have to do with this lawsuit?
Jay accused me of bringing in parts of or an entire machine gun into the classroom, which I consider a very serious charge because of the fact that you're not allowed to own those without a federal license, and it's a very serious crime. The only thing that I could possibly think of that would make him even say such a thing is that I did bring in this cigarette lighter.
What's the size of the machine gun lighter?
Well, it's about this long and it's on a tripod about that high.
The witness is indicating a space of approximately 12 inches. Is that a fair characterization?
I think so. It may not be that long.
You've also indicated that you expect to introduce a starting pistol into evidence.
Yes.
Why?
Because that's the evidence that I fired, which Jay says was the discharging of a firearm.
You also indicated that you expect to introduce documents from the community college files concerning you. Which documents do you expect to introduce?
Maybe we could go back to that because I'm not sure. We can go on to something else and come back because I need to think about that.
No, take as much time as you want to. We won't go on to something else, but take all the time you need.
Do you have something listed here?
No, what I have is the trial data certificate that your attorney prepared.
There's probably more, but I can think of them, such as the letter from 40 or 50 students that wanted me to come back, wanted me to stay as their instructor.
What else?
I don't know right now.
What do you expect your probation report to show?
Good.
What do you expect your probation report to show that has anything to do with the issues in this lawsuit?
Just that I completed the probation with a very good attitude and outcome.
You've also indicated you expect to introduce documents from the college files concerning Jay Weeks. What documents do you expect to introduce?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that.
Mr. Jughead, there were 2 separate incidents having to do with firearms. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Were there more than 2?
No.
When was the first one? Tell us what happened.
A student wanted to see a demonstration of a plastic pellet that could be used for indoor safe target practice.
What happened?
I demonstrated it to him and that was it.
Who was present?
Oh, about 4, maybe 5 students eating their lunch.
Who were they?
I don't remember their names offhand, but there were very few and they just continued to eat their lunch after the demonstration.
You don't remember any of their names?
I'm trying to think of the name of the student that wanted me to show it to him and I can't think of his either. Well, I'll have to think about that. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was just a few students and I can't remember his name at all.
So this is the situation where you blew a hole in your sport coat?
It's not blowing a hole in the sport coat. It was an old ski jacket with the stuffing falling out of the pockets and it was sun bleached and the plastic pellet crumbled the first layer partially. It didn't go through the first layer. It stopped it right there.
Did that take place during class hours?
No, during break time.
Anyone complain to the administration about that?
Not that I know of, no.
What kind of weapon did you fire that from?
I don't remember, but it would have been a regular 38 Smith & Wesson. It's what they're designed to be. That's what they're designed for.
How did you happen to have that at school?
A student asked me to bring it in the following day.
What kind of ammunition did you have in it?
None.
Maybe this is a matter of semantics, Mr. Jughead. What did you put in the gun and fire?
A plastic pellet propelled by a primer.
Did that demonstration relate to electronics?
No, it didn't. It was during break.
And there was a second firearms incident, correct?
You say firearms. You're implying a real gun, with real bullets. We're talking about the blank starting pistol.
That was the one on December 1, 1986?
If not that date, it would be right about that.
Right about that?
Right about, yes.
What happened?
There was a group of students in the back row that the majority of students had complained about for making excessive noise, and they asked me for several days in a row to do something about their noise in the background. And then one day we waited 30 minutes for them to come to order, and they didn't. And the students asked me to do something about it besides just waiting for them to settle down. Since they were so loud and rude, I made a loud, rude noise as an example of improper behavior.
So you knew that firing the starting pistol in class was improper?
No, that the behavior of the students was improper.
You said you made a loud, rude noise as an example of improper behavior. By that you mean you fired the starting pistol?
Yes, I fired the starting pistol.
And that was during class?
It was the beginning of class.
After you waited a half hour for them to quiet down?
The day before. Then we waited, they were at it the next day. So the students were all sitting there waiting for me to do something and they were very pleased.
And you felt that was all you could do?
I tried several things before. I tried talking to them. I tried waiting for them to settle down. I tried several things for about 3 days before that.
On any other occasions, have you brought firearms to the community college?
Just new in boxes.
How often did that occur?
I can't pin down how often. A few occasions. I don't remember.
Why did you bring them to school?
To show them to the students in case they were interested.
That didn't have anything to do with electronics, did it?
No, it was during break.
What guns do you remember bringing to class?
Mostly little ones.
Handguns?
Yes.
Did you ever bring any firearms besides handguns to class?
No.
Did you ever wear firearms on your person while you were teaching class?
No, never.
Did you ever have handguns or firearms in your briefcase?
Just in boxes.
Mr. Jughead, you've seen the document that's been referred to in this action as the survey, haven't you?
Yes, I've seen it.
This morning we were discussing what you expected Mr. Barb's testimony to be. If I recall correctly, you were reciting several things that you thought that Mr. Weeks had maintained about you that were. This is your first Q&A time writing at 225 words per minute. Your proper names are Chuck Wells, Mr. Wells, West Road, Lima, Leela, Charles, Cody, Todd, Tracy, Hodgkins, Darcy, Stephen, Travis, Piecemeal, Alaska, and Sweetland. Ready? Would you state your name for the record, please?
Chuck Wells.
Mr. Wells, you are the claimant in this particular matter, are you not?
Yes.
Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
No.
You understand that a deposition is basically a question and answer session where I have the opportunity to ask you questions about what you know. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Do you understand that this is testimony under oath?
Yes.
Do you understand because it's testimony under oath, it's important to be as accurate and truthful as you can?
Yeah.
If you were to testify as to a particular matter here today and then testify inconsistently at the time of trial, do you understand that I could use this deposition to point that out?
Yeah.
A couple of requests. When I ask you questions, if you would answer audibly for the court reporter, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
The other request I usually have is that if you at any time don't understand my questions, that is, you're confused, you simply can't understand them, please ask me to restate them and I'll be happy to do that, okay?
Okay.
If you don't indicate that you're confused or you don't understand, then I'm going to assume that you do understand.
Okay.
Okay, let's start off by getting a little personal background about you and your family. Where are you currently living?
Lima.
What's the address?
85 West Road, Lima.
How long have you lived there?
16 years at that address.
Are you married?
Yes.
And to whom?
Leela.
How long have you been married to Leela?
18 years.
Your wife is present here during this deposition and has an opportunity to listen to the questions I ask of you. She made the comment first or last time. What did she mean by that? Do you know?
We were married twice.
When was the first marriage?
March 3, 72.
And the second marriage?
It was November. I can't remember the day.
The year is fine.
I can't remember the day. It was a year and a half ago, whatever that would be.
So 88 or 89?
I can't even think straight.
Let me just tell you right now, if you need to take a break or you can't think straight, please take your time. We've got all day. And if necessary, we'll go that long, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, take some time. When was the year of the second marriage?
88.
When did you become divorced or when was the marriage terminated the first time?
In April of 88.
What was the reason why it ended?
We just couldn't get along. I was drinking a lot.
I'm going to ask you some questions about alcoholism that you have had and you have obtained treatment for. Is one of the reasons the marriage broke up because of your drinking and the alcoholism?
Yes.
Any other reasons?
I look at it and everything's led to alcoholism is the way I look at it, and we couldn't get along is because of the alcoholism.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Do you and Leela have children?
Yes.
Do any reside with you?
Yes.
What are their names and ages?
Charles, age 17, and Cody, age 1.
What about the children whom do not reside with you?
They're grown.
Where do they live?
Actually, right at this point, there is 2 other children staying with us.
Who are they?
Todd,
How old is Todd?
24, and Tracy is 22.
What is the reason why they're staying with you?
Well, Tracy's staying with us because he's working in Lima now and he stays at our place. And Todd is staying with us because he has Hodgkin's disease and can't afford to stay anyplace else.
Have Todd and Tracy lived with you for many years, then past their adulthood?
Off and on.
More often than not?
More often, yeah.
Is it their practice to live with you?
When they're not working, yes. They work away from home.
But you and Leela, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, have had Charles, Cody, Todd, and Tracy living with you for the most part?
The last 3, 4 years, Darcy and Stephen and Travis.
Okay, maybe I'm approaching this too piecemeal.
I thought you meant at the present time is why.
All right, let's go back and clear this area up. You have 6 children.
7.
What's the other one we haven't mentioned?
Stephen. I mentioned Stephen. Do you understand Stephen?
Yes.
Stephen, Todd, and Tracy, Darcy, Charles, and Cody.
Okay, so we have 7 children.
Yes.
Cody, Charles, Todd, Tracy, Darcy, Stephen, and Travis.
Yes.
2 are minors and are living with you.
Yes.
And Charles doesn't have any intent, does he, to move out of the household in the next year or so?
No.
Todd and Tracy live with you most of the time, except when they work. Is that correct?
Basically, yes.
And what about Darcy, Stephen, and Travis?
Darcy is married, Tracy is married and lives in Lima. Stephen is working in Alaska right now.
All right, but I take it from your answers in the past 3 or 4 years, they have lived with you.
Yes, all of them have.
All right, now what are the ages of Darcy, Stephen, and Travis?
Darcy is 18, Stephen's 20, Travis is 23.
When the adult children live with you, do they pay you rent?
At times, not all the time, but sometimes.
Explain what you mean.
If they're working around the Lima area and live with us, if they have any money, they pay us rent. If they aren't working, they don't pay us rent. We don't charge them rent.
Typically, what do you charge when they pay rent?
It depends on what they can afford to pay.
Tell me about your practice.
If they're making good money, they pay $200 a month.
Do you have a record of the rent that you've received as a result of your kids paying rent to you?
Over the last couple of months, we do, but they go in periods because Tracy just moved in back home 2 months ago, and he's paid rent since then. Before that, it's been a long time since anybody paid rent, several years.
If you get the lump sum monies which you intend for this business proposal, which kids intend to move with you to the Sweet Land?
Charles and Darcy. Well, all of them want to move there, but they're the ones that would move. I mean, Charles is still in school and he's still living at home. And Darcy and her husband, if we get our place going, are going to caretake it, manage the cabins and whatever else business we have.
Okay, Chuck. I'm getting the impression that it's your intention to set up sort of one household if you venture off.
I was thinking I don't know why I was thinking 240.
It's because I always get like a picture in my head, so I was thinking of an orange. And so right now I looked here and I go, wait a minute, that's faster.
Well,
and then I saw it.
When I'm grading it, I won't go past
I was going to ask you that. When we go past an accident, you don't count off.
No,
all right.
Because that's happened before.
Okay. This is your second Q&A time writing at 225 words per minute. Your proper names are Atlantic, Hide and Fur, and Atlantic. Ready? And your basic job duties at Atlantic, Hide and Fur, at least to begin with, was as metal separator.
Yes. That aluminum can machine didn't come in until about 2 years after I was working there.
You would have begun working at Atlantic in 1979?
Yes.
So until they got the aluminum can machine, your job was a metal separator?
Yes.
Anything else?
I drove a forklift for them. They used to buy those old car bodies. We would have to take the tires off and they would crush them. They had a contract to crush them.
They didn't crush them right there at Atlantic?
No, not there.
Did you work on automobile bodies for that 3-year period?
No, we didn't have to be at it all the time. Just once in a while you run a forklift and move a car in the back.
Were you around any noisy machinery during that 3 years?
Just that forklift is about the only thing that was noisy. But I only drove that once in a while, not lots.
Were you given any ear protectors during that time?
Well, no, I don't remember them ever giving us any ear protectors. I don't remember really ever getting them until after we got that can machine in there. And then we got them.
So then about 1982, they purchased or moved in an aluminum can machine. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Were you immediately assigned the job of working on that canning machine?
Yes.
Was anybody else given the job other than yourself?
Well, when the customers came in with cans, whoever was there had to get them.
So you weren't the only one then that was running that aluminum can machine when it was running?
The biggest part of the time, there was 2 of us running it.
Explain how the machine works. When you say the 2 machines, I don't understand.
One is a separator with a magnet on it. It pulls the steel cans out and then it goes in the other machine. And that machine crushes them up and blows them into a semi.
Does it run through the separator by a conveyor belt?
Yes.
And there is a magnet in there and it pulls out all the steel cans?
Yes. The magnet is on the end of it. It just rolls around like this and the aluminum cans will keep falling over and the steel ones, if there was any steel ones, they will fall down into the garbage can.
Was that a fairly noisy machine?
No, that one wasn't too bad. It was the other one. The can crusher was.
Then after the cans are separated, then you would shut off that separator and then turn on the crusher?
Well, sometimes we didn't shut it off. We just stuck another basket under there and let it run by itself. That's how we keep going, especially if we got a big truckload of cans and we didn't want to stop.
When you left in 1988, were they still running that separator?
Yes, they were still using it.
Do you remember or do you recall the name of that machine?
No, I don't remember. It was a can crusher is all it was.
What was the mechanism that crushed the cans?
It was inside the machine, just kind of like a steel drum that goes around with steel spikes.
It's got steel spikes?
Well, not spikes. It's just a big rod that's welded across. And then it goes around, it pulls those cans down and smashes them.
So it's a roller type of mechanism that actually crushes these cans?
Yes, that's where all the noise was coming from, was pulling them down and crushing them.
When they got the machine in 1982, you were assigned to work on it along with some others. Is that correct?
There was about 4 different people in that warehouse. When those cans came in, it was whoever was closest would have to go over and work.
So it was whoever was closest to the machine got stuck running it.
Yeah.
And that would also pertain to yourself?
Yes.
So you weren't the only one assigned to run it. It was anybody close enough to the machine. Is that correct?
Well, I was there most of the time. My job was to make sure that every time a customer come in, I was to run their cans through as quick as I could.
Was there a busy season of the year when people would bring in more cans than other times?
Usually when they have this fair here in the county, people are always selling their cans. And that was the worst time. That machine, we never shut it off. It was always running.
What time of the year was that?
In August, that's when the fair was.
Would Atlantic Hide and Fur have a special during that period?
Yes, they give them 5 cents bonus, and that draws the customers down there.
How long would the fair go on?
The fair runs just a week, but the cans start coming in about a week before that and then a week after.
Why would the fair result in a lot of cans being processed there at Atlantic Hide and Fur?
Mostly for the money for the kids. The people would sell the cans to get the money for the kids to go to the fair. That was the biggest part.
And that was the busiest time of the year?
Well, as far as the cans, it was hard to say what time the busiest time was. There is a lot of bars in the county. They bring those cans in by the truckload.
How long would it take you to process a truckload of cans?
Anywhere from an hour to 3 hours.
And you say that a bar would bring in a truckload?
And stay there all the time. Usually you have got them all lined up outside. I have seen about 20 customers waiting for us to get done. And that way you have to keep the machine running all the time to keep up.
When you say the machine is running all the time, have you ever worked a full 8 hours on the canning machine?
Yes.
During the busy times of the year, which would include during the time of the fair, you would be running that machine 8 hours a day?
Yes.
Okay, so as I understand it, you can testify or you can recall times when you would have actually been at that machine for 8 hours a day, except for having to, honestly,